Talking of gender confusion, this story has also caught my eye today. Meet Munroe Bergdorf, a model who has been controversially appointed the UK champion at UN Women, a charity that seeks to improve the lives of women and girls and promote equality within civil society, the corporate sector and government. Well, it's controversial because Munroe was, to put it in the modern parlance, assigned male at birth, or born a bloke, as others might put it. 17 women's rights groups have signed a letter to the charity complaining about a transgender woman representing them on the committee, especially since part of their written objection is that Munroe has in the past objected to women making references to our female bodies. Although Munroe did once set up a nightclub called the Pussy Palace. So empowering, don't you think? It was Groucho Marx who said, "I don't want to belong to a club that would have me as a member." Well, I'm not sure any woman should want to belong to a group that would have Munroe Bergdorf as their champion. But there's another good reason all women should rip up their membership of this group, in my humble opinion. Take a look at their reaction to the revelations of sexual violence by Hamas in October.
Is there a reason, though, Sarah, that you can't specifically call out Hamas?
UN Women always supports impartial, independent investigations into any serious allegations of gender-based or sexual violence. And within the UN family, these investigations are led by the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights.
It took the group a full 57 days after the Hamas attack to make any official statement. And even then, that was to condemn gender-based atrocities, or mass rape, as the rest of us call it. It seems to me that this group really has a problem with language and also with reality. So Munroe Bergdorf and the UN Women's Group probably deserve each other. Here to debate, here in the studio in London, are TalkTV contributors Esther Krakow and Paula Rhone-Adrien. Thanks so much for being with me both tonight. What do you make of this story? Let's start with you, Esther. It just seems amazing to me that of the 33 million or so women in the UK...
a biological male is their choice. That's quite an interesting... You know, I always think, what would happen if we ignored people that are trying to force their reality onto us? Because I don't believe we have an obligation to validate falsehoods and delusions. Certainly the law doesn't, public policy doesn't, and I don't think individuals in a country that lives with, as we say, we have free speech, I don't think we have to either. But this insidious drive now has infiltrated so many aspects of society. I think, on the one hand, I personally cannot be bothered to constantly be outraged by this because I know there's some people that will never have their minds changed, which is fine. But on the other hand, if we ignore it, what will happen in the future? How will our children be raised? How will we be able to tackle it if it becomes like it seems like a cancer that will never go away? That's the bigger problem I have here. Clearly, Munroe Bergdorf, you know, this person is very famous in the UK, and this is a trans woman. That's a biological man that believes that they were born in the wrong body. That's fine. But you're insulting women effectively by saying this is the only person that can represent women, 33 million women in the UK.
Well, what do you think about that, Paul? Because I think they're not saying that she's the only one, but she's the one they've chosen of the 33 million. That does seem slightly jarring, doesn't it?
No. So my position is, of course, that the right person is chosen for the job. And if the right person is Munroe, then Munroe is the right person. I'm not fearful or don't feel challenged or don't feel that I'm in competition with Munroe. Let me just make it clear, I don't know who Munroe is personally. I've only read about her. I read the letter that was written to the UN Women's Group, UK group, and what I understood from the letter, the concerns were twofold. The first was that Munroe was not pro-women, and the second was that Munroe had written a number of historical tweets that were racist and that were homophobic. Now, for both of those reasons, if they're right, then I would agree. Because clearly then Munroe would not be an appropriate person
let's just remind ourselves of exactly what it is, because if you're choosing anyone as a diplomat, a representative of an organisation, I mean, you wouldn't want somebody who, for instance, called somebody on Twitter in 2012 a hairy, barren lesbian, said she wanted to gay bash a TV star, and called the suffragettes white supremacists. I mean, it's not the best outreach thing, is it?
I mean,
No, but can I just say, when we talk about outrage and when we talk about a cancer, I believe that the outrage and the cancer is somewhat misguided. Let me explain to you why. I'm intrigued that we continue to talk about trans women. I'm intrigued.
Well, why do you think it is?
Well, I tell you why it is because there are certain groups in society that are happy for what are two marginalised groups to infight. Okay? And let me explain to you why. Because if this amount of energy was expended on why it is we still have a gender pay gap of 14.3%, if this energy was expended on why it is that professional sportswomen are not being catered for in the same way in terms of their commercial contracts, why it is that
maybe because they're getting beaten up by lesser male athletes.
Why it is that Serena and Venus Williams were not being paid the same amount.
That's a disingenuous argument.
Finals as they were for men.
That's a disingenuous argument.
Then I would kind of understand that these allies who suddenly
you're pretending not to know why. There is a reason why. There's a reason why we're fixated more on the issues to do with trans women than trans men. Because you don't have sporting organizations validating trans men in male sports, because it doesn't exist, right? There's a reason why there's all this sort of controversy around trans women in female prisons, because it doesn't happen the other way around. That is the reason why. And to pretend or to juxtapose that against other legitimate issues is completely disingenuous.
I agree, yes.
You know why this person, Munroe Bergdorf, who was born with a penis, cannot represent women in this country, because this person will never understand gender-based violence, because this is a biological man. They will never understand how it feels as a woman to have a biological man in your toilet, because they're a man.
By the way, I agree with both of you a bit, and I certainly agree with you, Paul, and I would rather never talk about these issues ever again. But unfortunately, as we all know, they keep coming forward because, I mean, kind of deliberately provocative things like choosing a biologically born man as a woman's representative just comes up.